one to where it's with all the calcium. I'm really glad I got rid of all that. Guess which side the valves. So now that I have the tire off the rim and the rim off of the tractor, and you guys can, I guess I'll give you a better close-up view of this rim. It's not in terrible shape, but it's pretty, it's got a lot of surface rust, you know, all the rusting around here and of course around the valve stem. So eventually this will get painted, but for now what I'm going to do is weld on a piece of pipe like I did on the other one, except on this one I'm going to move this out just a touch further, because on the other one's sort of like this, and I'm going to move this one to where it's something along those lines, maybe like that. And then we'll clean all this, clean out a spot for the ground clamp, get rid of this thing. I can't unscrew this. I have to use vice grips or a cut-off saw. And then we'll get to welding. And, of course, the cap will screw on to this, and then, you know, it'll protect the valve stem. So nothing that came by and hit this one that I know of. And even with all the calcium, I'm really glad I got rid of all that stuff. Whoever thought of that? I mean, I'm sure it was a good thing at the time, you know, to weight your tires with water and calcium, and it's roughly about 10 pounds per gallon, so this takes 53 gallons, so 530 pounds roughly of weight in just this one rim. And the problem with that, with the calcium, is they put that stuff out on the roads, as far as I understand, as far as I know, and you know, you see what it does to the cars. So what it does to the vehicles, it'll do to the rim. And this, of course, the side that the valve stem is on. So guess which side? If I didn't show you which side the valve stem was on, guess which side the valve stem would be on? This side, because it is so much more rusty. And this side's almost, there's parts of this that are brand new, like nothing's ever touched them or anything. But the steel was getting, I don't know if this is how this was made, but it does look like there's some chunks and stuff missing. Like there's one right here, and I thought there was another one underneath this. Yeah, sort of. So I don't know if that's how that was made or what, but I guess let's start grinding some of this rust away, and then we'll start welding this thing. I'm just getting everything set up here and moving the rim out. I obviously don't want to be welding in this building because there's a lot of gasoline and stuff stored in there. So I just weld outside, which is not much better, but it is a little bit better. Anyways, I'm going to be cleaning this, cleaning all the rust on stuff off. It's really difficult to weld through rust, and it's not good to do it anyways. Granted, this isn't a structural thing. I mean, it's, you know, just there to protect the valve stem. And I got this new, I bought 20 pounds of welding wire, and they sent me this paint marker, which is very, very cool. I use it all the time to mark steel and stuff, and it just about writes on anything that you want. So I may buy some more of these at some point. So I figured I'd talk a little bit about what I did so far. So I've got the rim here pretty much clean around where I was welding, and obviously I'll clean it again because of the spatter. But I'm putting this pipe over here, and then this cap will go over this, screw onto this. There's probably a BB in the way. Just like that, and then I'll fill the rest of it
as much as I can around with weld, and then this should theoretically make sure that the valve stem doesn't get hit or anything, and should make this last and it should make it last a long time, and also be protected, from stuff if you're running against trees or something with this tractor. So now let's fully weld this thing. It's all tacked up and ready to go, just waiting for me to pick up the gun and start welding.
I decided to leave this clip at the regular speed, without fast forwarding or time lapsing, just so you guys could hear the sound of me welding. So I'm using a 90 amp flux core wire welder from Harbor Freight. Let's see, I'm using a Harbor Freight angle grinder, a Harbor Freight extension cord, a Harbor Freight toolbox. I'm not using Harbor Freight welding wire though. That stuff I bought online. It's about, I don't know, 35 or 40 bucks for a 10-pound spool of the welding wire. And I figured this is E71 TGS, so that's gasless flux core welding wire, single pass. And I tried the multi-pass in this welder, and it did not weld good whatsoever. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if they sent me the wrong welding wire. But I bought the two 10-pound spools of the GS welding wire, so E71 2GS, and that is welding just fine for me. I couldn't figure out why the other stuff wasn't welding good, but it was a little thicker than 0.035 if I remember correctly. So a couple things I want to mention here. Do not weld with the tire on, or at the bare minimum remove the valve core, so that the air inside the tire will have a place to go, because obviously since you're welding, you're heating things up rather quickly. And there's videos on YouTube of people welding on rims. Well, actually, they just have a machine, they do a test or something, and they have something that'll hold the welding gun up to the rim, and then they have something that'll remotely press the trigger, and you can watch it weld for a little bit, and then I don't know the time, the amount of time it takes for the tire to blow up, but it's rather quick. And since the valve stem here, it's really best to take the tire off to weld this on, because you'd be welding right where the tire would go, and it's better to do that than to weld it with it on anyways. So I'm just welding away here, and of course I left the cap on there to take up the threading so that there isn't any BBs and stuff that get on it. So I've threaded this on about as far as I can, and it seems to be doing good, and welder's fine. I did not hit the duty cycle any time doing this. Obviously I'm not welding for that long, and I've been pretty happy with this little welder from Harbor Freight. Now granted, I should probably be wearing some PPE, such as a welding coat. And the reason why I wasn't is because it was about 90 some degrees this day, the day that I was doing this, and it was pretty miserable outside. So that's why I'm not welding that, because it's so hot, and I'm trying to stay cool as it is. And welding anyways is hot, and it's just one of those things. I guess it'd be so nice to have a nice air conditioned shop that I could weld in, but we would have to do a lot of stuff to this building to make it somewhat airtight, so you could put an air conditioner in it, and then we'd actually probably have to run another power source so that whenever I'm welding, because the welder takes up so many amps, I have a maximum of 20 amps here in this building, and the air conditioner would draw another probably 15, so I'd need 35 amps of power coming in here, and I only have a maximum of 20, so obviously I can't weld when the air conditioner is on. But I'm really glad I did this. This should protect this valve stem quite a bit, and we shouldn't have any problems with, something were to, say you're driving through the woods or something with this tractor, and there's no way for anything to come by and hit the valve stem now. So I'm really glad I did this. It was a good addition to it, and getting all that calcium out was another big thing. That stuff is so bad for rims, and even with inner tubes, because inner tubes still leak, and then the calcium gets between the rim and the inner tube, and then it just stays there and it just eats away at the rim. And in case anyone's wondering, I'm going to mention this. The fan you see, that is to blow the smoke away from my face, because every time I swear, every time I'm welding, it always seems like the wind just follows me around, and same thing with the smoke, and it's really not good to be breathing that stuff. And this was a galvanized pipe, so obviously it's definitely not good to be breathing those fumes. And I'll tell you what, that fan, it really helps. I got that idea from Chucky 2009, so we'll give him all the credit for that. Since I don't have any fume extractor or anything like that. But the fan works good, and it definitely keeps the smoke away, and it would be nice to have a fume extractor, but those are pretty darn expensive, and this fan is pretty cheap, so you can see obviously what my decision was. And I did buy a new fan. This one's sort of on its last legs. I think there's something wrong with the cord, or I think this fan's older than I am. But I bought it's like a desk fan online, and you can swivel it, pivot it, and it clamps on. So like I could have clamped the new fan onto the rim, and just pointed it wherever I wanted it. So that's kind of cool. I would like to put some magnets on it, and then I could stick it to anything that I'd want. So now I'm looking around, making sure that I've got everything welded and somewhat sealed up. There's the bottom edge of it where it's sitting now. I can't really get to it real easily welding other than from the inside, and I think that's what I eventually did. Or I could have flipped the rim over and welded it from the other side, but this rim's pretty darn heavy.
So I pretty much have this thing welded in place. Here are some of the welds. And now, of course, they're flux core, and they're not the prettiest, but they will hold just fine. And the inside, there's a spot right in the back here. I will probably seal from both sides with some seam sealer, because I can't get the welding lead in there to weld that, which is fine. The majority of this the whole way around here is all welded, so there's plenty of weld on there to make sure that this thing will hold. And the cap seems to thread on just fine. So there you go. There is welding a valve stem guard onto an Allis-Chalmers D17 rim. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. It didn't turn out too bad. Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And hopefully we will see you all in the next one. Boy, it's a warm one today, about 86, and high humidity. Fortunately, though, I planned it just right, welding in the shade.